The Curse of Blackwood Forest. It was a night cloaked in mist, where shadows crept across the moonlit paths of Blackwood. The trees swayed in whispers, their branches stretched like skeletal fingers over the damp earth. In the distance, an owl's cry echoed through the silent, isolated forest, where a mysterious house, barely visible behind a thick wall of trees, stood shrouded in tales of horror. Blackwood Manor. They called it a place avoided by locals, surrounded by an air of fear and despair, waiting in silence for an unwelcome visitor. Our story follows Aaron, a history professor with an obsessive fascination for unsolved mysteries. Known for his logical mind and brave heart, he was the kind of man who never turned down a challenge, especially if it meant unraveling a century-old mystery. The tales of Blackwood Forest had haunted his childhood. Tales passed down from his grandmother about the cursed forest where souls were said to wander. Recently, Aaron found a letter in his grandmother's belongings. A letter that hinted at a hidden secret buried within Blackwood Manor. Compelled by his curiosity, and driven by a desire to uncover his family's connection to this haunted place, he made the decision to face the mystery head-on. The legend of Blackwood Manor began 100 years ago, with the tragic tale of the Blackwood family. Rumor had it that the family, once prosperous and beloved in the town, had suffered a series of mysterious misfortunes. The townsfolk spoke in hushed tones of Eleanor Blackwood, a young girl with the ability to foresee events. According to legend, she had a vision of her family's death, a vision so terrifying that it left her in a state of shock. Days later, the entire family was found dead within the manor, their faces twisted in expressions of horror. The townsfolk whispered that Eleanor had brought a curse upon her family, a curse that condemned her spirit to wander Blackwood Manor for eternity, seeking peace she could never find. Local legends grew as decades passed, each story more haunting than the last. Some claimed to have seen Eleanor's ghost peering from the manor windows, while others swore they heard her cries echoing through the forest at night. The fear of Eleanor's restless soul kept the townsfolk away, making Blackwood Forest a place no one dared to enter. But Aaron, armed with only a lantern and a notebook, wasn't like most people. Determined to solve the mystery, he entered the forest, unaware that his life was about to change forever. It was on a rainy night that Aaron found himself in Blackwood Forest, holding his grandmother's letter. The letter had led him to the forest, with cryptic words that hinted at secrets left unsolved. As he walked deeper into the forest, an unsettling silence filled the air. Suddenly, a chilling breeze swept past him, and in its wake, a faint whisper echoed, "Aaron." He froze. The sound had come from the shadows ahead. Nervously, he took another step forward, his lantern casting an eerie glow over the path. The whispers grew louder, and he noticed a faint light in the distance. Driven by a mix of fear and curiosity, he followed it, only to realize that it led him straight to Blackwood Manor. The once grand mansion was now decayed, its windows shattered, doors creaking with every gust of wind, as if inviting him inside. Taking a deep breath, he stepped through the door. As Aaron wandered through the dimly lit halls of Blackwood Manor, an oppressive sense of dread filled the air. The silence was broken only by his footsteps echoing through the empty rooms, each step accompanied by a feeling of being watched. Suddenly, he heard faint whispers, voices that seemed to come from the walls themselves, calling his name. The shadows stretched across the walls, twisting and bending as if alive, following his every move. In one of the rooms, Aaron found an old journal, presumably the pages were brittle and faded, yet the last entry was clear. "The visions are too much to bear. I see them, hear them, feel them, even in my dreams." Chills ran down Aaron's spine as he read her words. Her tortured soul seemed trapped within the walls of the manor, her suffering etched into every creak and groan. The atmosphere grew heavier, and Aaron sensed he wasn't alone. Shadows flitted across the room, and when he turned to leave, he found the door shut tight, as if an invisible hand had locked it. Panic surged through him, but he steeled himself and continued exploring, drawn by a strange compulsion. As he descended into the basement, the air grew colder, and the whispers intensified, turning into a desperate, agonized scream. At the bottom of the stairs, Aaron saw her, a faint apparition of a young girl in a tattered dress, her eyes hollow, reflecting an endless sorrow. It was Eleanor. She looked directly at him, her gaze piercing, as if seeing into his soul. He tried to move, but his legs wouldn't obey. She stepped closer, her expression shifting from sorrow to anger, and the temperature dropped sharply. Suddenly, the room plunged into darkness, and Aaron could feel her icy breath on his neck. Shadows wrapped around him, trapping him as he felt a crushing weight on his chest. He struggled to breathe, his mind racing with terror. In that moment, Eleanor's voice filled his mind, her words echoing with anger and desperation. They did not believe. They would not listen. And now, you will pay the price for disturbing my rest. As Aaron fought against the crushing darkness, he remembered the letter in his pocket, his grandmother's final words. Forgive the lost souls, and they may find peace. In a final desperate act, he spoke the words aloud, offering his forgiveness to Eleanor and her family. The shadows receded, and the darkness lifted as Eleanor's figure faded, a look of relief softening her features before she disappeared completely. Aaron stumbled out of the manor, gasping for air as the weight lifted from his chest. He looked back to see Blackwood Manor standing in silence, no longer shrouded in shadows, as if the spirits within had finally found peace. What would you do if you came face to face with a spirit seeking vengeance? Would you have the courage to forgive, or would fear hold you back? Let us know in the comments if you believe in the power of forgiveness and the mysteries that linger in the shadows. Shadows in the attic. In the quaint village of Eldridge Hollow, a storm raged outside, lightning illuminating the sky and casting eerie shadows on the ancient cobblestone streets. As thunder rolled overhead, the townsfolk whispered tales of an old Victorian house perched on the outskirts, shunned and shrouded in mystery. It had stood empty for decades, its weathered facade telling a story of loss and despair. Legend spoke of the restless spirit of a woman named Margaret, whose sorrowful wails echoed through the night, haunting those brave enough to venture near. Our story centers on Liam, a young man drawn to the supernatural, with a penchant for uncovering the unknown. Having grown up listening to his grandmother's ghost stories, he had always been fascinated by the unexplained. When he stumbled upon a faded photograph of Margaret in an old book at the library, he felt an undeniable connection to her tragic tale. Compelled to learn more, Liam set his sights on the abandoned house, hoping to uncover the truth behind the haunting whispers that had plagued Eldridge Hollow for so long. Margaret had been the beloved daughter of the town's founding family, known for her beauty and kindness. However, tragedy struck on the night of her wedding, when a terrible storm claimed the lives of her and several guests as they traveled to the ceremony. Heartbroken and consumed by grief, Margaret isolated herself in the attic of her family's home, refusing to leave. The townspeople claimed they could hear her weeping at night, a sound that echoed through the walls, mingling with the whispers of the wind. Days turned into months, and eventually, Margaret was found lifeless in the attic, clutching the wedding dress she would never wear. It was said that her spirit never left the house, trapped between worlds, forever mourning her lost love. The attic, once filled with laughter and joy, became a place of sorrow, and the townsfolk avoided the house, fearing the wrath of the grieving spirit. One fateful night, armed with a flashlight and a voice recorder, Liam made his way to the old Victorian house, his heart racing with a mix of excitement and dread. As he stepped through the creaking front door, a chill ran down his spine. The air was thick with dust and memories, each room whispering secrets of a forgotten past. He moved cautiously through the dimly lit halls, his flashlight beam dancing over faded wallpaper and broken furniture, remnants of a life once lived. As he reached the staircase leading to the attic, he felt an inexplicable pull, as if something was beckoning him. The air grew colder, and he could almost hear a soft voice calling his name. With each step, the sound of his heartbeat echoed in his ears, drowning out the world outside. He reached the attic door, which stood slightly ajar, as if inviting him in. Taking a deep breath, he pushed the door open and stepped into the darkness. The attic was a time capsule, filled with dust-covered trunks and cobwebs. But what caught Liam's eye was a large, ornate mirror, standing against the wall. Its surface shimmered in the faint light, reflecting not just the room, but also glimpses of the past. He approached cautiously, and as he peered into the glass, the reflection shifted, revealing a vision of Margaret in her wedding dress, her face pale and sorrowful. "Help me," she whispered, her voice echoing through the attic, sending shivers down Liam's spine. He could feel her pain, her longing for peace. And as he struggled to comprehend the vision, the temperature dropped even further. Suddenly, the wind howled outside, rattling the windows, and Liam sensed that he was no longer alone. Shadows flitted around him, their movements quick and erratic, and he felt a cold breath against his neck. Desperate to communicate, Liam activated his voice recorder, asking questions he hoped would reach her spirit. The shadows thickened, swirling around him, as he felt an overwhelming sense of despair envelop him. Each question he asked was met with silence, but just as he was about to give up, the recorder crackled to life, a chilling voice breaking through the stillness. "I am lost. Find me," the voice pleaded, and Liam's heart raced. He realized he needed to uncover the truth behind Margaret's sorrow to help her find peace. Determined, Liam scoured the attic for clues, rifling through dusty trunks filled with wedding memorabilia. In one chest he found an old letter, its edges frayed and yellowed with age. As he read the words, a horrifying realization washed over him. Margaret's had been involved in a fatal accident, but there was more. The letter hinted at a betrayal, revealing that someone had sabotaged his journey to the wedding. Before he could process the implications, the atmosphere shifted violently. The shadows coalesced into a dark figure, a ghostly apparition of a man with a twisted expression of anger. It was Margaret S., but his face was marred by rage. "You should not be here," he roared, the walls trembling with his fury. Liam felt his heart pound in his chest as he stood frozen, the weight of the truth pressing down on him. With a surge of courage, Liam spoke to the spirit. "I'm here to help her. She needs to know the truth." The figure hesitated, the rage in his eyes flickering momentarily as Liam pressed on. "You were betrayed, and you need to forgive her. She cannot move on until you do." The figure's expression softened, and for a moment, Liam saw the sorrow beneath the anger. "I did not know," he whispered, his voice cracking as he looked towards the mirror, where Margaret's reflection now stood, tears streaming down her face. In that moment, Liam understood. The spirits were bound together by love and betrayal, and only by confronting the truth could they find peace. As the storm outside raged on, Liam urged them to forgive each other. The atmosphere shifted dramatically, the shadows around them dissolving as the spirits began to merge, their anguished expressions softening. The air grew lighter, and the sound of Margaret's weeping transformed into a melodic harmony, filling the attic with warmth. In a final act of love, Margaret reached out, and the two spirits embraced, their energies intertwining as the light enveloped them. With one last, grateful glance at Liam, they faded into a brilliant luminescence, leaving behind a tranquil silence. Liam stood in the now peaceful attic, a sense of fulfillment washing over him. He had witnessed a love that transcended even death, a bond that had overcome sorrow. As he exited the house, the storm cleared, revealing a starry sky above. What would you do if you encountered a love that refused to let go? Would you be brave enough to uncover the truth? Share your thoughts and experiences in the comments below. Perhaps, like Liam, you too could help a lost soul find their way home. Echoes of the Forgotten. The village of Aelwick was quiet under the glow of the waning moon. A dense mist crept over the cobbled streets, swirling around the ancient trees that bordered the village, almost as if alive. At the edge of Aelwick stood an abandoned chapel, its stone walls covered in ivy, and its shattered windows casting eerie shadows across the courtyard. Locals warned against venturing near it, especially after dark. The place was haunted, they said, cursed by a sorrowful spirit whose story had been buried with the past. Enter Evelyn, a librarian with an insatiable love for history and mysteries. Shy and reserved, she had always found solace among the quiet shelves of her library, devouring tales of the supernatural and hidden secrets. Recently, however, Evelyn began having strange visions of an ancient chapel filled with flickering candlelight and a haunting melody that lingered even after she awoke. Determined to uncover the story behind her dreams, she discovered old records about Aelwick Chapel. Her curiosity, once innocent, soon transformed into a powerful pull that led her to the haunted village. The legends of Aelwick Chapel dated back centuries, rooted in a tragic love story between a young woman named Elara and a wandering minstrel. Elara was said to have possessed a voice so beautiful that it could silence even the fiercest storms. The two lovers would meet at the chapel every full moon, exchanging vows of love that echoed through the trees. However, their happiness was short-lived. One fateful night, a jealous lord, infatuated with Elara, confronted the minstrel. In a fit of rage, he cast a curse upon the chapel, claiming that their love would never be realized. The minstrel was banished, and Elara was left heartbroken, wandering the chapel in despair until her soul departed this world, forever trapped between realms. Years passed, but whispers of her sorrow lingered, intertwining with the tales of the chapel. Locals claimed that on moonlit nights, you could hear Elara's melancholic song, drawing lost souls to her side. The chapel, once a place of love, became a site of tragedy, its walls echoing the cries of the forsaken. Evelyn felt a deep connection to this story, as if the echoes of Elara's sorrow called to her. One foggy evening, fueled by her relentless curiosity, Evelyn ventured to the chapel. Armed with a lantern and her notebook, she stepped into the overgrown courtyard. As she approached the door, a sudden chill swept through the air, and the lantern flickered ominously. Hesitating for a moment, she pushed the door open, revealing the dark interior, filled with dust and decay. The air was thick with an ancient sadness, and as she stepped inside, she felt an overwhelming presence, as if the chapel itself was alive, breathing in her sorrow. Suddenly, she heard the faint sound of a woman singing. The voice resonated through the air, weaving its way into Evelyn's heart, pulling her deeper into the shadows of the chapel. Evelyn followed the voice, her heart racing as she moved through the darkened aisles. The melody grew stronger, wrapping around her like a warm embrace, yet tinged with a sense of longing and despair. Shadows danced across the walls, and the temperature dropped, a chilling reminder of the sorrow that lingered within the chapel. As she reached the altar, she noticed an old, ornate mirror standing against the wall. The surface was clouded with age, yet as she wiped away the dust, she saw not just her reflection, but a glimpse of another vision of Elara standing before her, singing with a passion that made the air tremble. Evelyn felt a wave of emotion wash over her, as if Elara was reaching out from the past, pleading for someone to remember her story. But then the vision shifted. Evelyn saw the jealous lord confronting the minstrel, their voices raised in anger, and she gasped as the scene unfolded before her. The minstrel fell to his knees, begging for mercy, while Elara's face twisted in despair. The moment was frozen in time, and Evelyn could feel the weight of their grief. Suddenly, a loud crash echoed through the chapel, breaking the spell, and the mirror shattered, scattering fragments across the floor. Startled, Evelyn stumbled back, and as she did, the shadows grew darker, swirling around her. The voice of Elara transformed into a scream, echoing through the chamber, drowning out all other sounds. The temperature plummeted, and a figure began to materialize before Hertha, ghost of Alara. Her face twisted in anguish, eyes filled with a pleading desperation. "Release me," she cried, her voice a haunting wail. Evelyn could feel the raw pain emanating from the spirit, and she knew she had to help. With trembling hands, she spoke the words she had read in the village records, words of love, forgiveness, and remembrance. As she spoke, Alara's expression softened, and the storm of emotions swirled around them began to calm. The shadows receded, and the chapel transformed, the oppressive darkness lifting to reveal the vibrant colors of a bygone era. Alara's spirit shimmered with light, and for a brief moment, they were together in a world where love had triumphed over sorrow. In a final act of love, Evelyn reached out to Alara, her heart filled with compassion. "You are not forgotten," she whispered. "Your story will live on." As the words left her lips, the ghostly figure began to dissolve into a cascade of light, her voice becoming a soft melody, echoing through the chapel as she finally found peace. As the last remnants of Elar faded away, the chapel transformed before Evelyn's eyes. The shadows were gone, replaced by soft candlelight and the scent of blooming flowers. The pain that once lingered within the walls had vanished, leaving only the echoes of love and hope behind. Evelyn stepped back into the moonlit night, her heart lighter, knowing that she had helped a lost soul find her way home. What if you had the chance to change a tragic story? Would you dare to face the echoes of the past? Share your thoughts and experiences with the paranormal in the comments below. Who knows, perhaps your own story could bring solace to the forgotten.